Listen, you guys, I'm doing this show with my pajamas on because I'm tired. I am so tired. And you want to know why? Because it is hard being a moderate out here. Everybody hates me. The left hates me because they think I am MAGA, and then the right hates me because they thought that I was a leftist. For the record, I have never been a leftist, ever. But it's really hard because sometimes I see their side and I see their points, and then sometimes I see their side and their points. But recently, a lot of people just assume because I'm Cuban or I'm talking the issues that I talk, that I am on the MAGA side of everything. But today, it's Friday, and I feel like being a little bit spicy. So don't hate me, okay, MAGA? Don't hate me. But today we're going to talk about some of the things I do not agree with President Trump and the MAGA movement. So, prepárate. Ay, Dios mío. Esto es Mari sin censura. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like ever since Donald Trump went down that escalator in 2015, the world has gone mad. Todo el mundo está quemado. Quemado. Porque I don't understand how people can see the same person and draw one of two conclusions. Either that Trump is bringing back the Third Reich of Nazi Germany, or that Trump is the best president that the United States has ever had. It's full maximalism to the very extremes, and it just keeps going and going and going. Aren't you guys exhausted? I'm a little bit exhausted about this because while people are fighting, I try to see things at least pretty nuanced. And lately, people just think because I am Cuban or because I really cannot stand leftists nowadays. I'm going to be honest. I can't, they're just so insufferable at times. And when I say leftists, I mean socialists and communists. They just automatically think that I'm MAGA. I'm full on MAGA. I have the hat and everything. And that couldn't be further from the truth because while I think that Donald Trump has implemented some good policies, there's other policies that I do not agree with. And I'm going to give you three main things that I do not agree with Trump on. So let's get ready. So first one, and it's the biggest, I think, it's immigration. Immigration is a really highly contested topic, especially in our world today, especially after what's been happening with the woman that got shot in Minneapolis and the ICE raids and all of that. And it's a big contested issue. So you might be saying, well, Mari, you came here, contested for Yoel to come here legally. You guys are legal immigrants. What's going on? Why are you against Trump's immigration policy? And I'll say this. Because I do not think what Trump is doing is immigration policy. I think it's immigration enforcement, which is two different things. He's enforcing the laws that we already have in the books. He's not changing those laws. He doesn't have a fundamental different belief than what we've had for many presidents now. He just wants to crack down on people flowing through the southern border. And I don't blame him. And he's done an incredible job. That I will have to say. He's done an incredible job by sheer force of his personality to shut down the border and the people who are crossing, especially from the southern border. But what I specifically mean is reform in our immigration system. And that is something that I don't think any side is really talking about because we're really focusing on the enforcement of the present day laws. And this is what I mean. A lot of people say, well, Madi, you guys did it the right way. And I tell them, yeah, but that right way is so limited for so many people. Because the truth of the matter is that if it wasn't for me being a US citizen, petitioning for Yoel as my fiance at the time, there would be no options for Yoel to come to the United States. Zero. There are no right ways for Yoel. There wouldn't have been any right ways for Yoel. And that's why so many people are so desperate that they cross using coyotes and going through the border and risking their lives because that's not an easy travel up all the way to the border. And they do that because there are no options for them. They can't ask for a visa because there's no visas for them. In this country, there's one of three main reasons on how you can get a visa. One, through your employer. So that employer has to show that person is more qualified than a US citizen and they have to sponsor your visa, which requires a lot of paperwork and a lot of money on the employer's part. Two, that you have high education enough to go to a school in the United States and the school petitions for your visa. Or three, a family connection. And if you don't have any of those, if you're from a lower class family that you're trying to have a better life for yourself, you're seeking a better life for yourself, and you don't know anybody in the United States, you really can't petition for very many visas at all. At all. And that's the truth. And that I think nobody's talking about how can we reform it so that people can do it the right way. They can go through those ways legally. I just don't see Trump reforming it at all. I don't see any politician for that matter reforming this at all, because immigration has always been a tool. It's always been like the carrot that they hold. The Democrats hold it in front of Latinos because they make it into a fear tactic. Like, oh, well, you can't vote the Republicans because the Republicans hate Latinos and they hate immigrants. So vote for us because we're gonna protect you guys, which is never true. Let's be honest. And then the Republicans use it as a fear tactics for U.S. citizens. Look at all these immigrants who are coming in. They're criminals. They're this, they're that. When the majority of the people who have come in are not criminals and they just want to work. That being said, let's leave that all aside. That being said, I do agree with President Trump on the enforcement. We need to get criminals out of the United States. Now, I know a lot of the times when ICE goes and raids these people, a lot of the times they aren't criminals. They're just hardworking people who want to better their lives for economic reasons. And that is a debate that we can have at a later time. That's a debate whether or not that those people should leave or exit the country. That's up for debate. But I do think, and I do agree with the president, that we should be targeting criminals first and foremost. And that we have to get that southern border under control, which he's done a great job in. I just wish the president would focus on reform. I wish any politician would focus on reform, because ultimately the border is just an ebb and flow of human labor. It's no different than supply and demand. The demand is high for human labor, so people enter. And so people enter to have a better life. Some very little people are seeking political refuge, political asylum, but the majority do just want to better their lives. And I wish there was a visa option for them so they can do it the legal way. Trust me, most immigrants would prefer to do this the legal way than hide and constantly be, scared about their status in this country and then pay coyotes on top of that to risk their lives to the border. So that's what I say to President Trump and to anybody who's watching me. We need to push for immigration reform to open up those visa eligibilities, open up a little bit more visa categories so people can do it the right way. Oh God, I already see the comments. I see the comments. Well, that gets us to number 2, the economy. Now, President Trump, when he was campaigning, he vowed that he would reduce the size of government. And at first, it seemed like he was doing that. Doge came in and slashed a lot of things that were inefficient and fraud, to be honest. Remember when they found that mine in the Social Security? They found it like underground in some mine in West Virginia or something. That was crazy. But it seemingly vanished. It stopped. Elon said he wouldn't do it anymore. Actually, don't remember what happened quite honestly with that. And while Doge did cut some things, it wasn't even barely the surface of our fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. I mean, just the other week, the Pentagon failed its 7th audit. Trillions of dollars missing from the Pentagon. We don't know where that money went. And the taxpayer should know where it goes. And that's just the defense budget, the third largest in our budget every single year. That doesn't even include the Medicare fraud that there is, Social Security fraud. And Trump seemed to be on board with this, like I said, but then it stopped. And now he's the same president that said that we should reduce the federal government to now expanding it even more. Because just last week, President Trump asked Congress to give him $1.5 trillion for the Department of War. 1.5 trillion, the most a president has ever asked. Ever. And so we are I don't know if the president knows this, but we're $37 trillion in debt, bro. Like, we're $37 trillion in debt. You're asking for more money? Especially to a department that just failed its audit for the 7th year in a row, and the American taxpayers have no idea where that money is going to. And like this, President Trump has significantly increased the debt in our country during his first term, and now what it seems to be his second term. President Trump has never been a conservative when it comes to economics. He's always been a populist, which is why I'm like, he could find some middle ground with the left on this issue, but the left chooses just to completely ignore him. And that's what I think is personally wrong. I'm counting on a president that goes, hey, the federal government is crazy big. It's way too big. It's way too inefficient. Let's look at this in different ways, and let's get serious about the debt crisis that is going to affect Americans, especially in my generation. Pero pobrecito, los Gen Zs están matados. They can't afford homes. They can't afford anything because the dollar has lost significant value since 2020 when Trump was in office. So where is he on the economy? There's very, very little difference between him and a moderate Democrat. Yeah, sure, they want to spend it in different ways, but they still both want to spend a lot of fucking money. So for that, I push back on Republicans all the time. I push back on MAGA all the time. Where's the limited government philosophy? Oh, that suddenly goes out the window because it happens to be Donald Trump, which I guess is a perfect segue for number 3, foreign policy. Where do I even begin? With foreign policy? Now, I don't even know where to begin on this because it's like such a fucking hodgepodge mess. Okay, let's be honest. Trump was going around the country saying, I started no new wars. That was like a campaign thing that he said. And people were like, fuck yeah, no new wars. We shouldn't be getting into these entanglements all over the world. Look at what happened to Iraq and Afghanistan. Y una pila de mierda, 700 bases all over the world. What are we doing? That's not America first. And they're right. It's not America first. Now, you might be saying, but Mari, didn't you like what happened in Venezuela? Yeah, because I'm also like currently going through a paradigm philosophy change right now, because I do think that when it comes to geopolitics, the language of geopolitics is power. It's not morality. Morality is a local language that only Americans define and Chinese define in their own way and the Cubans define in their own way. Morality is a local language. And power is a universal one. And whose power do we want to be under? I would like to say America, not China's. Based on their moral code, I don't want to be there either. So I am changing like if some intervention is necessary or not. And I do see the case for something like Venezuela. We'll see how it plays out because it's only been like, 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks. So we'll see how it plays out so early to make a judgment call. But I didn't like what he did in Yemen. I don't like what he's doing in Yemen. I didn't like what he did in Iran for the 12 days. Yes, it was targeted. Yes, it was quick. Yes, it was swift. But I don't like it. I don't like what that signals to the world. I don't like how it signals to Putin that he can go do whatever the fuck he wants if America's going to go do whatever the fuck they want. I don't like it. I don't like this purchasing of Greenland. What? What are you talking about? Greenland is a NATO country, so there goes NATO. Why can't we just build another base? You want Greenland so bad, just build another base. Why are we purchasing it? That goes back to the economy issue. We don't have the money to purchase Greenland. We don't have the money to. I don't like the Greenland thing. And let's be honest, I don't like the Israel thing. I don't like it. I don't like how Israel is so influenced in American politics. Now, do I believe that Israel has the right to exist? Yes, because I live on planet Earth and I touch grass. Like, I know Israel is not going to be eradicated no matter how many times a 18-year-old blue hair, no septum says from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Like, it's Israel's going to exist. And yes, we should be allies with them because they are the only Middle Eastern country with democracy and progressive values, Western values, I would say. So I don't mean that we shouldn't be allies with Israel. I don't like how powerful they are. I don't like that we send them billions and billions and billions of dollars in aids. I don't like that at all. If Israel wants to defend itself, let it defend itself, and we will be there as allies. But sending billions upon billions upon billions of dollars that, again, we can't afford. We can't afford that. While our people are struggling, our generation is struggling to buy a home because, again, the power of the dollar is just diminished. Because we get into these entanglements where we're giving billions of dollars. And let's not even start, hold on. Let's not even start with our foreign aid that we give to multiple countries all over the world. Foreign aid is just a way that poor people from a rich country give to those who are rich from a poor country. That hasn't stopped. And to be clear, that hasn't stopped with any president. That's not to say that I do think some actions are good here and there. We can't be isolationists completely because then, of course, China and Russia and Iran or whoever swoops in to those countries and creates regional dominance where we also have self-interest, right? But entangling us to the extent that we are is absolutely, for me, ridiculous and that we cannot afford. And also, sometimes it creates an immigration problem. So yes, those are the things that I particularly am not a big fan of when it comes to Donald Trump. And I know that I'm going to get a lot of pushbacks in the comments. But esto es Mari sin censura, mi amor. And you are also sin censura. Feel free to write whatever you want in the comments below. We can have a debate. We can have dialogue. We can be philosophical about it because you have every right to speak your mind on this page as I do speaking to you. Well, now you know that I'm not going to be wearing a MAGA hat anytime soon. But hey, I respect it as I respect mostly everybody because some people out there being like fucking crazy, okay? Bueno, nada. Dale, esto es Mari sin censura.